Guys, this is Ron and Hope Unfiltered, real, raw, and relevant, and I think you can tell that the better half of this podcast is not with me right now, and so we're going to roll with it. Man, I'm really excited about what we're going to do. I spent some time recently where I've got to go and take what God has put in my life about the kingdom into a business setting at a convention in Dallas, Texas, and it is one of the most enjoyable things I have been at in some time, and I'm going to introduce to you who my guest is going to be today. But first of all, just want to let you know that we guys love you and we guys appreciate you. I need you to like, I need you to subscribe, I need you to text other friends, I need you to tell them, because we're trying to get this to as many people as we can. Why? Because this is the one time it's more Ron and more Hope, and not Pastor Ron and Pastor Hope so much. We have many different hats we wear, many different roles that God has us functioning in. But we did this on purpose to kind of just let you see how me and Hope, how we live, how we talk, how we banter, how we laugh, how we go back and forth at each other, how we live life, things that aggravate us, things that we love, things that we don't like so much, and things that you just don't preach about. You know, we don't go up and do podcasts on stage during church time. And this is really the only expression where we get to do something like that. So if you're joining us for the first time, thank you so much. And thank you to our sponsors and everybody that is helping us do what we do today. And I want to get on and make sure we use our time wisely. So I'm going to introduce Brother Pedro Adao, and who has at one time was an acquaintance, but I would now put him in the friend circle. I think he's a brother and he's a friend. And, man, I am so glad to have you. Last time we were together, it wasn't church, but it's one of the best church services I've been to in a long time. And I'd left there telling people you had one of the most unique blends of Christian faith, spirituality, and business that I had ever been a part of in my life. And me being a kingdom guy, I believe in marketplace agendas just as much as ministry place agendas. But going there and seeing what I had in my head, you were actually executing it. And I'm just going to be honest with you, I'm not blowing smoke. It was a beautiful sight to see people who want to make a difference with their gifts, their entrepreneurship, all the things that they're doing in the marketplace, but they want to do it also with an understanding of the kingdom and executing their faith. And so I want you to just take a minute and let everybody know who you are and tell them what you do.
Awesome. Well, man, it was great. It was great having you there.
It was fun.
We had a great time.
It was fun. And we had the fried chicken afterwards. Yes.
And we did have some amazing fried chicken in the suite. And that was the most fun. Mm-hmm. I love to laugh. I say that, like we're going to jump right into the kingdom, but and the kingdom is so vast, we can talk about it. But to me, part of the culture we're creating, part of the kingdom culture that we really are really intentional about is building around family, friendship, and fun.
Yeah.
And so I think part of what you got to experience, Ron, is that one, we are intentionally creating an atmosphere that's built, that has those things in it, right? The kingdom is a family. The kingdom is a family. Like we are part of the family of God. So people talk about kingdom stuff, but then I'm looking, I'm like, well, where is the relationships? Where is the fun? Where is the friendship? Where is and if I don't see real people that enjoy each other and are actually real friends, having a good time and actually have a family type of element aspect to it, then I'm like, okay, I'm not saying this is not kingdom, but certainly they're missing a huge aspect of the kingdom. And so it was great having you there, man. It was incredible.
It was.
Been a huge, I think I should have told you, it was deep. I was greatly impacted by your TV ministry in a really difficult time, 10, 12 years ago, where our last company had failed and really had never failed in my life. Had just, went to college, got good grades, got a good job, got married, bought a house, and just every year was making more, growing just every year, bigger, better, better. And then just had my first taste of failure at 35. And, you don't really want to have your first fall out of a 10-story window.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
You're better off to fall off the curb out of the, fall out the, but so it was really a rough season for me. And I share with you that the TV ministry was a huge blessing to me at that time. And, so it was just one of the coolest things about what has happened in my life as God kind of tricked me into launching this kingdom entrepreneurship movement. He really did trick me. I was not trying to do this. My background's in financial planning, financial services. We were doing very well. I had my first 7 year as a financial professional, and I was looking to scale that across the country. And then God had other ideas. But one of the coolest things is now I get to work with and collaborate with people that are heroes in the faith to me. People like Bill Johnson, Chris Valentin, Heidi Baker, people like yourself. I've got the chance to sow my gift into things that Joel and Victoria are doing in Lakewood. And just kind of, it's crazy how God, 10, 12 years ago, I'm watching you and Joel and Bishop Jakes and, just literally consuming Christian television because every half an hour I just need hope to get to the next day.
I understand.
And then 13, 14 years later, here we are collaborating and God's using me to help advance them even further. It's just wild. And so we can get into all of this, but kingdom entrepreneurship is kind of my jam now. And we have some unique thoughts and perspective on it. I would say that this concept of kingdom business is nothing new. It's been around as a concept.
I agree. But the execution of it.
Yeah. And yet, I don't know, Ron, I don't know how well it's really been done. And I'm not saying we do it the best. I'm also going to be honest and tell you I've not seen it done better, but I haven't been all over the world either. Right. But I think we do it. I think the Lord is pleased with what we're doing, the favor he keeps opening. And at the same time, I'm learning and growing, and I don't think we're perfect at all, but it's been a great blessing and great surprise to our life that God would use us this way. The thing I failed at 15 years ago, I didn't know how to be a kingdom entrepreneur. I didn't know how to take all of this wisdom, worldly wisdom knowledge from the success industry, from all the books on business, marketing, sales, investing. And I got radically saved 20 years ago at a funeral. And now I'm reading the Bible and I'm seeing that all these contradictions between the Bible and all these secular books on business. And I had no one to help me sort this out. I had no one to tell me. So I tried to apply this part of the Bible I liked and this part of the world I thought was cool and trying to make my own little, formula there. And, you can imagine how that worked out. It doesn't, right? So anyhow, just some opening thoughts for us to get started.
You're talking about, I've never heard it put like that. You don't want your first fall to be out of a 10-story window. I love that analogy. The fact is I'm 54 now. And I hope I'm not old, but I have been doing it a long time. I started very young. And this is what I've learned. I don't know if this is original with me or not, but this is what I've learned. Success is a horrible teacher. It's a horrible teacher because when you string along several successes, success teaches you that you can't lose. And then when you lose, it has been my experience as well that one of the major differences between people who succeed in life and people who do not is their response to failure. Because failure is inevitable. But when you have won and you have won a long time, failure slaps you upside the head. And the fact is, you're usually not in a defining moment when you succeed. You're in a defining moment when you fail. And however you respond in that moment of failure will usually set the trajectory of the next season of your life. And I wish somebody would have told me, the 30-year-old version of Ron, who was succeeding, that success is not a great teacher. Because I was learning everything from my successes, and then when the failure comes, man, you fall hard. because you've never experienced it before. So I want you to know I get exactly what you're talking about, the way you felt, the way that thing hit you. And I just praise God that I was able maybe to have some level of influence and impact in your life, because everybody needs somebody to reach down and kind of pull them out of a hole every once in a while. And let me ask you this. If a person wanted to be a part of what you were doing, what would they get out of it?
Yeah. Before I go there, can I just?
You can do anything you want, man. This is our podcast. Talk about anything you want to.
Yeah, man. Because what you just said, it was really good. And before we get it, so partly why it hit me so hard was my identity was so wrapped up in the success, right? So when I failed, first of all, I didn't know who I was outside of my success.
I get it.
All of my pride, identity, sense of self, and purpose was wrapped up in that version of myself, and then that got shattered. I allowed people to build me up in that season. I would Pedro's got the golden touch, whatever he's doing, just get involved. And so what I learned, Ron, is when you let people build you up, and when you let people put you on a pedestal, you are also giving them permission to tear you down.
Mm-hmm.
And the tear down is always worse than the build up. And so, you're absolutely correct. And the irony is, had I not failed at trying to figure this out, and had I not responded the way that we did, God couldn't use me the way he's using me today. So failure does not disqualify you from your call. Failure does not even disqualify you from your assignment. In fact, if you have an epic, massive, colossal failure, more than likely that is a confirmation of what you exactly are supposed to do.
Yep.
Why else would the enemy come after you so hard?
Yep.
Because I went through stuff, Ron, on one hand, I will say God was very gracious to me, and I guess it could have been a lot worse. And on the other hand, I went through some stuff that seemed way overkill. It seemed like it was way harder than it needed to be on some level as well. And I also think for anyone there that may be going through, if I'm catching you guys, if this podcast is catching you and you're in that place of this in-between messy middle kind of, first of all, I regret spending 3 years on the couch. I regret spending 3 years letting the enemy beat me, where I was able to forgive people that did me wrong, and yet I really was not able to forgive myself as quickly as I needed to move on. And so I regret that it took the time it did, and yet God has brought great fruit from that time. So, yeah, man, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, especially if you're going to attempt great things with God, for God, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. And so, not that we try to make mistakes, not that we should be reckless on purpose. And yet, and I just didn't really have a container for that. To me, it was black and white, made mistakes, failure, you're a loser, boom. And so I just think that for people hearing this, nobody I know, now I get to meet awesome people, Ron, people like you, and all kind of people that are actually making real impact in this world. There's not one of us that cannot open up and tell you about all the places that we could have wished we had done something different. And the fact is, the reason why I think a lot of people, we have so much fruit of our work, is my teaching and mentoring is very much mostly me teaching from the scars and the mistakes I made.
Yep.
Not just, hey, look at my trophies, look at all the shiny stuff, look at all, if I can just help you avoid these huge failures and these huge disasters, you almost can succeed by default if you just avoid the huge pitfalls. And so I absolutely, appreciate what you're saying and said there. And as far as people that want to kind of,
let me interject there. Now you done taking this thing down the road. So somebody needs to hear this stuff. So me and you'll just sit here and talk about it. And I don't know all of your stories. We're still getting to know one another, but I do consider you a brother. And here again, when I am put in a position to affect other people, and this is my experience. I don't have data on this. This is just Ron Carpenter's experience. People are much more impacted by my pain than they ever were my victories. You can start telling them, hey, we won right here. I mean, this was a score. God really blessed on it, and they just kind of sit there and nod. But then when your eyes get a little bit watery and you fill it with tears, and they can hear your voice quivering a little bit when you start telling them about how life broke you, then everybody's dialed in and sitting on the edge of their seat. Why is that, Pedro? Because pain doesn't discriminate. Pain don't care how much money you have. Pain don't care what color your skin is. Pain don't care what your last name or who your daddy is. Pain does not care. It visits everybody, and it's not discriminatory in any way. And here again, Hope and I were just talking. We came out of the 212 conference. I try to be a guy that sets high expectations. I try to live that way. I really do. People say, what's the best sermon you've ever preached? And I say, the one I'm going to preach Sunday. I try to say my next is going to be my best. But the fact is, when you set really, really high expectations, honestly, rarely are they ever met. Maybe they are gradually met, but not immediately met. So what do you have to do? Not only do you have to learn how to respond to failure, you have to learn how to manage disappointment. There were so many things in 212 that happened right. There were about 2 or 3 things that I really wanted to see happen that didn't happen. And I almost went down the pity party hole and I missed 30 things that were amazing because of the 2 or 3 things that disappointed me. And the law of focus comes in where you have to learn how to focus on the right things. How do you manage your disappointment?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and
pardon me.
The truth. So much of the kingdom. I often talk about the kingdom as like 2 sides of the same coin. Another mentor of mine talks about the truth is always held in tension or pulling, right? So I think on one hand, we're supposed to have hope and believe God for the best and have intentions of and then at the same time, we know we're going to do it and it's going to be what's going to be. So I guess part of how I do it is one making the decision I'm in this for the long term.
That's good.
So a lot of times, so you may do something and you may have one event or you may do this one thing. And then of course, and I would say that people like us, Ron, we are very prone to overly, I think there's a quote that says most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day, in a week, or a year.
I'd say that's me.
We will overestimate what we can do in that time, but we will grossly underestimate what we can do in a decade. And I have found with me that I'm very much prone to that. I'm also very much prone to doing this one event, this one conference, super focused on making that incredible, right? And now we put all of it's like this. That's the only thing that exists. Yeah. It's almost like, it's like a wedding.
Yeah.
Like a wedding, like it's like all this preparation for that day. And then you wake up the next day, you're like, oh, I guess we have this life after, right? Yeah. So like you do big events. We're all so focused on the event and how it's going to be and getting the people there and what transformation we're trying to create and the type of outcomes we're looking for, whether it's financial outcomes, salvations, dedication, whatever it is. And none of us here are small thinkers. So we're just like believing for like record-breaking numbers all the time, breaking. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing.
And then oftentimes it doesn't happen. More times than not, it doesn't. The number that we thought doesn't happen. And so now it's like just celebrate the good. Celebrate what happened amazingly well, like what the transformations that did take place. Remembering it's not your last one. Remembering that we're in this for this is one of many. We're building a body of knowledge. Hey, and yet I don't think I do it that well, to be honest. I kind of have to go process that emotion. Like I'll have that disappointment. I kind of let it just hit me. And I'm not one of these people that likes to just look in the mirror and be like, positive.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not like one of these like positive self-talk all the time kind of people. Maybe I should be. If I'm disappointed, if I'm genuinely disappointed, you know, like I'll tell my team one number, you know, around like, what's the goal? I'm like, the goal is this, but in my mind, I know the goal is that, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes they're concerned that I might not be happy. I'm like, no, guys, this is great. Like I wasn't even. Then there's times where I just am truly disappointed because, well, Pedro, don't you trust God? Yeah, of course I trust God.
Yeah.
But guys, like listen, we all trust God, but yet we all work very hard and sacrifice more than people will ever know to do the things that we're doing. And you don't work that hard and put this much time, money, energy, sacrifice to not expect a harvest. That's just dumb.
Right.
So we have expectations because we are investing mightily.
Yeah, you're right.
And there's times where the harvest isn't what you thought. And that's just, Ron, like, it's disappointing. And so I just kind of let myself feel it, process it. Sometimes it takes a couple of days. And I just kind of work it through. I kind of let myself feel the pain of it a little bit. And at the
I
same
call it
time,
flushing it. I always tell Hope I have to flush it. And I have this thing that I do. It's not a pity party.
Yeah.
But I will admit the disappointment.
Yeah.
I usually will go, I need a little bit of time by myself.
Yeah.
I will admit the disappointment. God lets me get it out. I usually don't get it out to people. I'll get it out to God. I know who to go to. He can handle it. And he's touched with the feelings of my infirmities. He knows he made me with feelings. I'm feeling failure. I'm feeling it.
Yep.
And I'll go to God and get that out. And then I will return to my confessions. I will return to my faith. I will return to believing again. But I do have to have that moment where I realize it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. We invested on a deep level. The return was not what we thought. But success is not always visible. Success is sometimes you're winning and it does not look like you're winning. Mary Magdalene was at the tomb crying, and there were two angels there, but neither one of them were crying. Mary's crying because Jesus is gone. The two angels are fine. Why? They know what's happening. Jesus has descended to take the keys of death, hell, and the grave from the enemy. She can't see it, but Jesus is winning. But it looks like he's losing. And I've had to realize that sometimes God's got me winning, even though it looks like I'm losing. I just don't see the fruit of it till later. And that goes back to one of your former statements, and I love how we just play off each other, is, you know, I've overestimated what I could do today, but I've underestimated what I can do in a decade. If you're in it for the long haul, you will see the results. And a lot of people are not in it for the long haul and don't think circumspectly. They think immediate. And there's a lot of times immediately I didn't see the results, but because I stuck with it when it wasn't fun and all the excitement had worn off, that's called commitment. Because I was committed to it, the results later came. So I know we're kind of preaching back and forth to the choir. I don't know, this might be me and you might be having a therapy session with each other in front of everybody.
Well, and that would be very valuable to people.
Yeah.
I would tell you this, that if you're going to therapy, you're probably not going to talk to people that are as successful as you and I are not doing therapy. We're not offering therapy. Certainly not for a couple $100 an hour. Mm-hmm. So even if that's what we're doing, and I'm not sure that's what we're doing, but even if it was, it'd be very valuable to people, because this is the real talk that usually is very hard to hear from people at our level. It's kind of like image management and just keep everybody excited and keep everybody full of hope and joy. And I don't, my role, how God's using me in the kingdom, my assignment is not just hope. I've been told I'm an inspirational person. I'm told I give people hope. My story, Ron, I was praying to God to not let me wake up when I was watching you on television 13 to 15 years ago. Like, I literally was earnestly begging God to not let me wake up. I had $6 million of life insurance and I was $3 million in the hole to friends, families. And like, literally, I'm like, Lord, like, please, I'm useless. I'm good for nothing. That the world is better without me. I'm a loser as a husband. I'm a loser as a father. Failed in business. Like all my friends hate me. Just I was too scared to kill myself. Is the honest to God truth. I was just too afraid to kill myself. So now I'm asking God to kill me for me. Don't let me wake up. On earnest. I wasn't like, ha ha, like, oh God, like I earnestly was praying for this, you know, and yet like and yet here we are. And so I know that like my story is hope giving and inspiring, and yet I don't see my role in the kingdom as just being, that's not my core message, right? Part of my core message is also I feel like God uses me as a teacher, a trainer, a mentor to create systems and to create blueprints and frameworks and give people access to things that took me a much more painful, lengthy time to discover. Give people access to things that I had to learn the hard way. But no, this is a great conversation.
Yeah. And I think it's real. You know, I've listened to my share of motivational speakers. You have a foot in both worlds. You have a foot in the ministry world. You probably rub shoulders with many of the guys who are extremely famous for being motivational speakers. And you know, when they come out there with 64 white teeth in their mouth and positive, you got to think positive. It's not real, Pedro.
No.
That's just not real. And it's not real with them. Their life is not like that. Managing divorces, managing kids that are wayward, managing betrayals, managing your failure, managing your inconsistencies, managing your weaknesses, managing the things you don't do well, managing the faults in the systems in your organization. You're managing all these things, and you just can't smile all the way through it. And so I have just really, whenever I speak in front of people, I'm in a season in my life where I'm not ashamed to show my scars. You know, Jesus showed his scars. I just come up and say, look, I didn't win all the time. And I hid my failures from you, but now I'm going to talk about them. Yeah. And man, it is amazing. The people that are sitting there saying, now, that's the kind of guy I want to follow. That's the kind of guy I want to follow. That's real life right there, you know. I got to break away. I've got a sponsor, and it's tough in conversation. It's good to do that. But I got to talk to you guys about our wonderful sponsors at Nutrafol, of which I not only have them as a sponsor, but I use Nutrafol because my dad's hair thinned, and when I saw mine thinning, I said, you know what? It doesn't hurt to try. Over 80 million men and women in the U.S. experience thinning hair, yet it is not openly talked about, which can make going through it feel scary, feel stressful, and just adds to the problem. I tried Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the number one dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, thickness, and visible scalp coverage for men and women alike. Did you know that there are multiple causes of thinning hair? Nutrafol is the hair growth supplement that goes beyond the genetics to target stress hormones, nutrition, metabolism, aging, lifestyle factors, anything that may be affecting your hair. Thinning is different for men than it is women. Nutrafol has multiple unique formulas for men and women to provide exactly what they need based on their biology and their age. Every formula is physician formulated using natural medical grade ingredients for reliable results without compromises. In clinical studies, 72% of men saw more scalp coverage and 86% of women saw improved growth after 6 months. Nutrafol is also trusted and recommended by more than 3,000 top doctors. You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and entering the promo code RAH. Don't forget that one, RAH, to save $15 off your first month subscription. This is the best offer anywhere, and it's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus free shipping on every order. Get $10 off Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code RAH. We love our guys at Nutrafol. Thank you for being a sponsor. Pedro, I want to come right back to you. Got about 7 or 8 minutes here. And you know what? I was going to give you the floor and let you talk about the life and times of Pedro Adao and what you offer to the clients who are a part of this great business that you built and also ministry that you have. But it seems like it took us down a different road, so I'm willing to stay that course if you want to. I just is when life just kicked the underpinnings out of you, was your comeback quick, or was it a slow, methodical process where you and God and your faith, you had to pull yourself out of it? Because I have seen people just bounce right back. I really have. And I've seen some others that they make it back, but it was indeed a methodical process in place. What was yours?
I would say the people that bounce right. Well, first of all, I'm sitting here like, and I'm like, oh man, I think we're going to help some people with this interview. And then you just cut that promo. And I'm like, wait, this was all about me, because I'm looking, I got something to go. I said, this whole thing was, I mean, like, Lord, like,
listen, man, I'm a good client of theirs because I take it. I take the stuff. When I saw my hair start falling out, I'm like, I need some Nutrafol or something. So anyway, listen, I'm just at the age, I'm glad it's hanging in there.
There's some good looking bald men.
I can't rock bald, I don't think.
I don't think I'd be one of them. My head is coned. I had because I was a big baby, so they used a forceps. So like, I can't go bald. I'm like, Lord, please, like.
Everybody on my team in here is grinning, listening to you talking about a cone.
I live in Orange County, so at some point, I know I can just write the check and do the thing, or people going to Turkey now. I don't know, but I was like, wait a minute, this whole thing was about me just getting more hair. I said, if anyone gets blessed by the podcast, that's icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's icing on the cake. Yeah, my wife told me my head is terribly knotty. And she said, I just don't think you could rock bald. So some way or another, God and Nutrafol together, we got to keep some of his hair in my head. So anyway.
Let's go.
So okay, just tell me about your comeback. It's obviously God has taken you to a great place. Yeah. But I mean, you're talking about 10 or more years ago, you're praying to die. And I just went to one of your conferences, and it was electrifying. Yeah. What was the process between those two?
Yeah, for sure. And it's that, and like gotten to work with people like Damon John, the Shark Tank, Joel Osteen, like launched industries. Like it's crazy. Like we haven't talked about that. I'd love to do a part 2 and talk a little bit more, but yeah, I think the part 2 of all the success would be better even after this part here. But there are people that do bounce back quickly. And I would say that it probably wasn't their first. Like, I hope I never have to go through anything. Like, nobody wants hard times. Like, I don't want to, I'm not trying to invite anything into my life. And yet I'd like to think that, it wouldn't take 3 years to kind of come through it. I'd like to think I wouldn't be asking God to kill me again in this season. I'd like to think that there was things I learned. There was an authority I gained in that battle. There was giants I slayed in that season that I don't have to fight again. Now, and so I think people that kind of can come back quicker in business, it's called cycle. Mm-hmm. How fast can you cycle? And there are venture capital. There are you're up in the land of venture capital, right. Private equity. Right. There are a ton of people who will never even give money to an entrepreneur unless they've already failed and gone bankrupt once.
I didn't know that.
They're like, no, you have not yet failed and crashed and burned, which means your crash and burn is in front of you, and I don't want to be around for that. So I'm going to let some other investor go through that journey with you.
So the crash and burn is assumed by the investor. It's assumed. Yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah. Okay.
So until you've had your first one, they don't like, nope, I don't want to talk, So anyhow, but so here's a key. So basically my entire curriculum for how I teach people how to become a kingdom entrepreneur literally was based on that exact journey, going from broken, busted, miserable, like begging God to kill me, and then looking back on how God walked me through there to taking me back to the top. And so he had me look back on the entire journey he took me on. And in there was a process that now we have a framework that we teach people. But one of the first things, two key elements, I'll have time to shoot. One is I had to get my heart healed. that failure was a trauma to me. It wasn't like losing a few dollars. It wasn't like having a bad day. It was a trauma. Like, people talk about PTSD, and I'm not trying to compare my situation. I've never been to war. I've never held my friend who had his head blown off. Like, and yet, as in my life, like, this was the most traumatic thing in my life.
So it did not leave quickly.
No. This was like, this shook me to my core. I had friends do things to me that were inconceivable. So when your friends turn on you, lie, betray you, and are doing things, and then you're like, if my own friends would do this,
you lose faith in everybody. You lose faith in everybody.
In everybody. I don't trust nobody. Now it's like, so now I'm like in this, I'm starting over in terms of how do I even build trust? Who can I trust? Like, and so it's just so I did a lot of inner healing. I know there are some people who don't think inner healing is necessary, but I actually did inner healing. I met with some trained people in inner healing, and whether it was Heart Sync or whether it's Sozo and these whatever modality, but I met with someone who could walk me through, let me process, because all pain and suffering comes from believing a lie. And so I had believed lots of lies in this trauma, and so I did a lot of inner healing to kind of get to the root of these lies. Turns out I had massive father wounds, Ron, and I didn't know that because my dad's alive, was a great guy, took me to soccer, took me to tennis, took me to all the music lessons. My dad gave me time. I was in the best private schools. Like he gave me time, and he gave me all the things we needed to succeed in life. The only thing my dad wasn't really able to give me was the one thing he just didn't know or have to give was the words. Yeah. My dad he's an old school immigrant guy, didn't really know how to put the words together. Son, I love you. I'm proud of you. He didn't know how to do that stuff. And partly because he just wanted me to keep trying harder, to keep kind of being the best I could be, and was a little maybe concerned I would maybe ease up a little bit. So his unknowingly, my dad and I have an amazing relationship now. Unknowingly, like that lack of verbal affirmation was creating a very deep wound in me, to the point where all the mistakes I made in business were because I believe that heart wounds create blind spots. And I got blinded to the red flags. I was blinded to the things I could have seen. I believed people I shouldn't have believed. And my wife told me, that guy's a liar. He's lying to you. And I'm like, no, you're just a hater. You're just negative. Just like, because I wanted it to be true. Ron, let me say this. When you're looking for a rescuer, you will always find an oppressor. Okay. So I in my mind, I wanted to succeed and crush it in business so much because that was the only way I thought I would finally get my dad affirmation to give me the attaboy I was looking for. So now I'm an intelligent man. Now I'm making dumb decisions that I'm too smart to make because my heart is so wounded that I am blind. I've got blind spots to how I'm chasing after this prize. And now I can't even access the logical, rational intelligence because I'm being driven by emotions. And my wife is telling me, and yet now it's like I can't be stopped because like I have linked these two things up. So one was I had to get my heart healed. And the second was I went broke because I left my field of favor. Proverbs talks about a wise man works his own land, right? But a fool chases fantasies in other territories. I've always had favor in the financial services industry. I always had favor, especially in the life insurance industry. I always had favor doing real estate in my hometown, flipping houses. Then I got kind of talked into doing some more exotic real estate stuff with some guys in Texas. stuff I had no experience with, men I did not know, doing something I had no experience doing, and I left to feel the favor where God was prospering me. And I left my field of favor where I had wisdom, knowledge, experience, and proof that I can succeed here to go gamble on something someplace else. And so the two things I did to get back on track was, one, I started going after, why did I do this? Like what had me make these poor decisions? Because I'm an intelligent man. I went to college. I'm smart. I'm smarter than this. So there's got to be a reason that something happened. I went to the heart, and I also went back to the last place God was prospering me. So like just the last place God was prospering me was in the insurance industry. So I went back to the insurance industry. Now here's the problem. I didn't get to go back. I left the industry as a king.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to go back as a king. I had to go back at the bottom. I had to go back as a peasant, doing the things that the most rookie, basic, beginner, entry-level agents are doing. Meanwhile, I have experience and knowledge and track record of this, but I can't start there, or at least I didn't think I could start there, because in my mind, nobody at that level would want to work with me because I'm like just damaged goods. So now I go all the way to the bottom of the ladder of that industry and start just to kind of move from there. And God just begins to like honor my promise.
When you're faithful over little, he makes you ruler over much. And you just stayed faithful with the level you were on, and he kept promoting you. I'm going to tell you something. I can't believe it, but we've been on here about 45 minutes.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna put you on the spot in front of everybody. Will you come back on here with me really, really soon? And I want to talk about the journey back, because we need some time on this. We talked about pain. We talked about failure. We talked about managing disappointment, all those things, of which we could say more and have more stories to tell. But the last question I asked you was about the journey back. We don't need to just spend 4 or 5 minutes on that. I don't need to tell you how you can fall apart without telling you how you can put yourself back together. And so I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you come back on with me fairly quick, and let's talk. I just want to give you the form and say, all right, you're in a deep, deep, dark place. Just about everybody at some time of their life is going to be able to identify with that. What did Pedro Adao do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and God pulled me out of that place. And now he's great. He's using the tragedy to take me places I've never been. Because that's the goodness of God. That's the grace and the mercy of God, and that's how he works. My brother, man, you're an inspiration. And like I said, I'm glad we're above comrades. I'm glad that we're friends. I want to spend some more time with you. But I'm grateful that you've come in and done some real talk, because you're right. People that are walking in blessing usually don't want to show their scars and don't want to talk about their pain. And you come on here and really got real and really got vulnerable. And somebody watching really needed to know they're not the only one that's ever had a train wreck. Yeah. They're sitting there watching it saying everybody's a success but me. And that's just not true. But God does. He is a potter, and he takes marred pieces of clay, throws them back on the wheel, and makes it another vessel. And you are watching two people talk who've been made into another vessel. And so I appreciate it, Dave. Any last thing you want to tell them where they can go check you out?
Yeah, yes, let's do that. Let's do a part 2. I think that would be a great actually frame to talk about the things that God is having me do. And you're right, Ron, like I didn't know that people failed like that. I thought I was the only one. And that's what the enemy will tell you.
Right.
He will say, see, you're stupid, you're dumb. And like, those are lies he's going to tell you to get just isolated. And so I'd love to do a part 2 and talk more about that. And I would say, if people want to learn more about what we're doing, I have something that we launched this year called Kingdom Seekers, which is just a very simple membership people can join. And it's all about seeking the kingdom. It's all about prioritization. Seek the kingdom.
Prioritization.
Pursue wisdom so you can prosper.
Right.
And it's basically built around my wisdom challenge, where I've done 31-day wisdom challenge once a year. It's changed so many lives, and so let's keep it going. So if you want to seek the kingdom and get some kingdom principles and some wisdom from Proverbs every single day, a little bit of encouragement as well, then kingdomseekers.com, they can check that out. And man, I can't wait for us to jump back on and do this again.
I am going to have somebody call in your office about as soon as we get off right here to make sure we get this in quick. Guys, I love you. We love our audience so much. I really do. I care about you. This is not meant to just sit in here and teach. It's meant to be fun, but every once in a while, in the fun, I hope you hear something that can really impact your life. Hope's not here. She'll be back next time, and she definitely makes it more fun when she's here. She's the better part of it. So she sends her love. And everybody, thank you for joining. Like I said, subscribe, like it. Let us know how we're doing, because after all, we're not doing it for us. We're doing it for you. Thank you guys so much. We'll catch you next time.